Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. We're going to be doing a video today on the top 5 benefits of a carnivore diet. We'll talk about what a carnivore diet is. I'll go into the nitty-gritty and we'll talk about some of the physiological benefits and is it right for you. Before we do, please smash that like button. Really helps the search algorithm. Put your comments down below. Love to see what you're thinking on the topic. And again, we are live right now, so feel free and chime in some questions if you can. All right, so first off, what is a carnivore diet? So a carnivore diet is primarily consisting of animal protein, animal foods. Again, these are going to be full fat, full protein rich foods. They aren't going to be typically lean proteins. They're going to be full fat proteins. This can include animal meat, beef, pork, lamb, organ meat, bone marrow. Again, we're focusing on pasture-raised, grass-fed options, pasture-raised eggs, super good fat profiles that are going to be primarily saturated fats, whether it's like you could potentially throw coconut oil in there because it's a really good saturated fat. Ghee on the dairy side, we could do butter. Any of your tallows, whether it's beef or duck or lamb or lard, any of those things are going to be totally fine. Good emphasis on seafood as well. Seafood is unique because it's very high in omega-3s, primarily EPA and DHA, which are really good for the brain. And they're also very anti-inflammatory, nutrient dense. You're also going to get some good iodine and other rich foods that you're just not going to get in other nutrients on the seafood side. Eggs are going to be great. Again, pasture-raised. Pasture-raised means chickens are eating whatever's on the grass. So typically that's going to be bugs and whatever's in the environment. Ideally, not a whole bunch of corn and grains, which your typical regular eggs are going to have. And again, pasture-fed eggs will have as much as 20 times more B12 than your conventional eggs. And again, that's according to Joel Salatin, who would bring his pasture-fed eggs to a lab and they would run the B12 in it, and it was 20 times more according to him. Again, dairy products, again, that's one of those things. You got to see if you can tolerate dairy. There's different kinds. There's dairy with casein and lactose, like in milk. Cheeses that are fermented would be very low in lactose, low in casein. That may be a good option. Ghee and butter will tend to be good options as well if you can't do like just milk in general. But typically, carnivore will focus more on ghee and butter and maybe heavy cream while keeping the other higher casein or lactose dairies out. Organ meats, really important on the organ meat side. That's going to be super rich in vitamin A. You're going to get extra iron, extra B12. Again, you're going to get amino acids that aren't going to be as methionine rich. Usually the muscle meats are more methionine rich. You're going to get less methionine. You're going to get some really good nutrient density with a lot of these foods. Fats and oils that we talked about, most of the fats and oils are going to come from animal-based fats, high-quality saturated fats. They're not going to come from nuts or seeds or oils. Why does this matter? Because those nuts or seeds and oils are going to be more on the omega-6 side, more going down that prostaglandin 2 pathway. And a lot of those omega-6 fats are going to be processed. They're going to be rancid and oxidized. And the more oxidized fats are, the more it's going to create free radical stress in your body. And of course, like collagen and bone broth is excellent because these are nutrients and amino acids that are going to be very helpful for your connective tissue, for your bones, your joints, your skin, your hair. These amino acids are very high in proline, hydroxyproline, glycine. Glycines are a really important building block for glutathione. Again, people get saggy skin, they get wrinkles as they get older. Part of these amino acids are going to be a huge building block to help prevent against accelerated aging of your connective tissues. And again, these nutrients are going to be fat soluble, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, so that you can get some incredible fat soluble nutrients. Hope that makes sense out of the gate what the big focus is. And so like a typical meal could be egg yolks, or it could be poached eggs in the morning with butter or ghee. It could be a ribeye steak in the afternoon. It could be chicken thighs with skin on. You could either have bone broth with those as well. We could easily add in some sodium chloride, like high quality, like Redmond's real salt, to get electrolytes and minerals. You're going to get some calcium with some of these things because you're going to put bone broth in there or bone marrow in there. So you're going to get a lot of those nutrients from the bone. And again, the emphasis will be on full fat protein sources. If you're doing this with boneless, skinless chicken breasts, or you're doing this with a lean fish, that's going to be problematic, and you're probably going to have some caloric deficits, and you're going to feel like you're having a lot of cravings. So you got to make sure if you do it right with good full fat protein sources. All right. Very essential. And again, you can always add additional fat to your meals. All right, let's go over some of the benefits. What are the top 5 benefits of a carnivore diet? Let's dive in. There's a handful of different things. I'll kind of go over them out of the gate. First one is it's simple. It's easy. Like your diet, you just go you line up your ribeyes, you line up your good quality fish, you line up some eggs, you line up some ghee and butter, you line up some chicken thighs, and you just go out on your grill or you go throw up your oven or you throw up your cast iron skillet and you just cook it. It's that simple. You don't have to get super elaborate. So simplicity is a big deal. Next, weight loss. Part of the benefits of getting improved weight loss on a carnivore diet is you're restricting lots of carbohydrates, very little carbohydrates. Therefore, you're lowering your insulin levels. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. It also helps you store protein in your muscles, but most people aren't consuming excess protein, they're storing extra fat. And so when those carbohydrates aren't used or we don't have a source to store it in the liver or in the muscles as glycogen, then it's going to convert it to fat. So by consuming very, very low carbohydrate, the only glucose you're getting is through gluconeogenesis, where you're converting the protein into glucose. But that's a really slow process, and your body tends not to spike up glucose very much and get a big insulin spike when you're consuming protein. That's only going to happen through flours and through grains and through processed carbohydrates. So weight loss is a big one. You're lowering your insulin levels. And again, you can get a blood sugar meter. You can get like the Freestyle Libre, like this one, which is a CGM that you put on the side of your arm. I got to do a video on how to put those on. You can also do Keto Mojo, which is really good. It also tests for ketones, which is good. And it's a cheaper test for ketones. Ketones could be expensive. This is a good test for it. I like that. And here's the meter like this. And then you can test it with your little strips and such, and you can look and see how your blood sugar does. And so you can kind of come into it, get some data before you go into your ketone, before you go into a carnivore diet. And is a carnivore diet ketogenic? Yes, it is. Anytime you drop your carbohydrates under 30 grams a day or so, maybe even 50, you're going to be spitting out a lot of ketones, and you can measure it. Around 1 millimoles is a great place to be. You can go into it. You can test your blood sugar, fasting 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour. You can see where your blood sugar would be before, and then you can see where you're at when you're on a carnivore diet. You may find that your blood sugar doesn't go up that much after a meal. Again, the goal is to not really go above 120 to 140 in that first hour. 2 hours to be back below 120, and 3 hours to be back below 100 ideally. And so that's a really good kind of skew where you want to be, because the faster your blood sugar goes up and the longer it goes up, the more insulin you're making indirectly. And the shorter your blood sugar goes up and the faster it comes down, essentially that means the less insulin you're making. And this is good because insulin creates lots of different issues with putting on fat, holding on to water, increasing blood pressure, stress on the heart, decreasing capillary blood flow, causing clots, because when insulin's high, platelets tend to aggregate and stick. So a lot of benefits through keeping your insulin down. Blood sugar regulation, we are kind of already talked about that. Weight loss and blood sugar are intimately connected, because the higher and longer your blood sugar is, the more insulin, the more fat storage. So that's connected as well. Let's also connect anti-inflammatory, because we're consuming really good proteins and fats. These fats are going to be anti-inflammatory because we're getting some arachidonic acid in there, which are going to go down that prostaglandin 2 pathway. But we are also going to get really good fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A, D, E, and K, really important nutrients on that side of the fence. And we're also going to be getting, stearic acid, which is really good as well. And then we're also going to be getting prostaglandin 1 and 3, because we're getting lots of gamma-linolenic acid, because of the fact that we're getting lots of grass-fed, pasture-fed protein sources. So pasture-fed and grass-fed are going to be key to ensuring a good anti-inflammatory diet. Mental clarity and focus, that's going to be a big one as well. Mental clarity and focus is a big one as well. So because we're reducing inflammation, we're cutting out lots of grains, we're cutting out lots of anti-inflammatory foods, that's going to help improve brain function. Our brain loves ketones. So by getting more ketones in our body, that's an extra fuel source for our brain to work off of. So ketones only come about when our insulin's lower. The lower our insulin is, our body will start to say, okay, let's take those free fatty acids, let's rip that glycerol backbone off, let's synthesize ketones from it. And this is an additional fuel source that our body will use for fuel. We can only use ketones typically when our blood sugar is lower and our insulin's lower. So that mental clarity through 1, reducing inflammation, 2, getting lots of fat-soluble vitamins in there, and 3, bumping up those ketones. You can go look at Dr. Veach's work. I think he's out of either Harvard or Boston College, right in that Cambridge area. But he talks about using ketones for fighting brain cancer, for helping all kinds of cognitive neurological benefits. So ketones are really big as well. And again, reducing anti-nutrients would be the last one, right? Anti-nutrients are a big deal. Now, of course, you have like the common sense anti-nutrients like gluten, like lectins in beans, your phytates and oxalates. These could be in nuts and seeds. And then also just the fibers and lectins in vegetables and starches. Some people are really, really sensitive to them. And so by cutting them all out, if someone has a raw gut, this can provide a lot of benefits of healing and recovering. And so reducing those anti-nutrients can be amazingly helpful, not just the gluten, not just the the nuts and beans or the seeds, but the other things I talked about on the vegetable and fruit side, just any of those fibers, people that are really sensitive, they could get some good benefits. And then, of course, we already talked about it. We're flooding the body with lots of bone broth, glycine, lots of nutrients that are going to be very helpful for building up that gut lining. And if that gut's inflamed, that's going to make a big difference. So let's recap, right? It's simple, right? You can do it. There's not a lot of food choices. That makes it easier. Just go pull out your grill and cook away. 2, we're helping improving weight loss. We're reducing weight loss by helping to reduce insulin. 3, we're helping with blood sugar regulation, which thus also helps with mood and energy and inflammation as well. We're improving mental clarity by having additional fuel sources that our body can work off of, like ketones. And 5 is going to be reducing anti-nutrients, and the anti-nutrients going down, lectins, phytates, oxalates, gluten, wheat germ agglutinin. That's going to help our brain function better. That's going to help our guts heal. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Again, I'll kind of answer some questions in a minute, but in general, if you enjoy the information, share it. If you have questions or you want to dive in deeper and look at kind of your health in a more holistic way from a functional medicine perspective, there'll be a link down below. You can get my coordinates. You can reach out and schedule with my staff. I'm happy to work with you worldwide to get your underlying health issues addressed and resolved. All right, guys, let me dive into some questions here. Is lactose-free milk bad? It just depends, right? Lactose-free milk, it depends how it's lactose-free. Typically, that's a lot of processing involved to pull out the lactose, unless it's fermented, or there may be adding a lactase enzyme in there to neutralize it. It just depends. It's just more processed. I'd much rather see you do a raw milk that has the enzymes in there, and maybe you have a better chance of processing it, or just stick to like a super heavy cream or a ghee or a butter that typically has the casein and the lactase or the lactose down. Again, lactase is the enzyme that would neutralize lactose. OS is the sugar. ASE is the enzyme. Dr. J, questions here. Is your Digestive Synergy product good if I have SIBO and hypoglycemia? So my Digest Synergy is like my lower dose HCl. I like it because it's a tablet form, so I can adjust the dose if people are sensitive. It has pepsin in there. It has some HCl. It has some pancreatin, so it's good for that. If you have good gut function already, meaning you're not like having a raw gut or sensitive, then I would just use my HCl Supreme because that's a higher dose HCl with pepsin at about 700 milligrams. I use Digest Synergy for patients that are more sensitive, and it's kind of a little bit on the lower dose side for patients that can't quite handle that level of acid. I've been carnivore since August 2022. When I go for long walks or stand on my feet, for more than half of my ankles and shins swell up. What could be the reason? Also constipated, doing OMAD. So here's the deal out of the gate. Where can carnivore be problematic? Some people do really good getting some glucose in their body, and their body likes it. So go carnivore for a week or two and then start to add in a little bit of safe starches and see how you feel. Also, I don't love OMAD because you got to get all your nutrition in one meal. That's a lot. So, I'm 6'2", 220 pounds, 210 pounds, right? So I need, 3,000 calories a day? You know how big that meal is to get 3,000 calories in one meal? That's a lot. Like that's like literally me eating for like an hour and a half. So I recommend, obviously like a big ribeye steak, just that alone. I was at Capitol Grill for my wife's birthday on Tuesday, and a 16-ounce ribeye was 900 calories, right? 900. So that would be like literally me having 3 ribeyes if I'm doing carnivore. Right. So it's a lot. It's a lot on your stomach. And that's why I think it's a little bit hard. It's more manageable doing it 2 times a day. 3 is ideal, but it's more manageable doing it 2. The next thing, you need to look at your electrolytes. One of the big, bugaboos of a carnivore diet is 1, if you're eating lots of protein and you have low enzymes and low hydrochloric acid, that could reveal some weakness. Number 2, potentially low electrolytes. So you can help that with bone broth. You could potentially add in like some celery juice or just add in an electrolyte supplement that's going to have good potassium, sodium chloride in there, and extra magnesium. Worst case, you can do that. If celery juice may be problematic for you, you could do that. That's a good one out of the gate. That's probably what's happening. And, being constipated is normal because you have less fiber to push out, so you have way less bulk in your stool to have to move it. So that may be normal if that fiber content is down. Hope that helps. I would look at your thyroid too and make sure that is good, but I'd look at the electrolytes and make sure that's dialed in. Good question so far, guys. I do much better with the carnivore diet. How about 20 pounds of ribeye in my freezer? Yeah, that's awesome. Ribeye is great. I like ribeye, especially if it's pasture fed. You're getting good stearic acid, good fats. If it's grass fed, you're getting a lot of the plant nutrients in there. I love that. That's really good. Very good. You're welcome, Rose. I've gained weight going carnivore from 85 pounds to 130 pounds. 130 pounds. I'm guessing that's good weight, right? 85 pounds, unless you're a kid, that sounds pretty malnourished. So 85 to 130 is good. Is carnivore good for fatty liver? Yeah, it is. Most fatty liver is actually going to be due to insulin resistance. You can see it via an ultrasound. You can get an ultrasound over your liver, which is going to be on your right side here. Again, my camera maybe mirror image, so it may look the opposite. Ultrasound, you can see high levels of ALT or AST liver enzymes will be elevated. You can also see insulin, above 15, above 20 fasting, right? So one of the best things, get your insulin levels down. You decrease these JNKY enzymes, junk enzymes, and that's going to really help reduce your fatty liver. And fructose, fructose, this is a sugar that you're going to get in processed foods. Excess fruit will do it, but your high fructose corn syrup, sugar is going to really get that elevated and is going to get that fructose in that liver, and that's going to create insulin resistance in a fatty liver. Yeah, so 5 foot, that's good. So 130 pounds as a 5 foot male, 5'4" male is good. You're on the right track there. That's perfect. Okay, question here. Sorry if I missed this, but thought for low white blood cell count at 3.0, Norman range. So yeah, 3.0 for WBCs or white blood cells is very low. I mean, you want to be like 4.5 to 7.5. And so your question is, I would have to know before or after on the carnivore diet. There could just be some immune stressors going on, like in your gut, some other gut issues that need to be cleaned out and worked on. Could be independent of it. So you'd have to look at before and after, but 3 or 3.8 are both still very, very low. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video on the benefits of a carnivore diet. Just to kind of repeat it one more time for anyone joining late to the show. It's simple. It's going to help with weight loss. It's going to help with blood sugar and insulin resistance, mental clarity through anti-inflammatory nutrients, and also ketones for your brain to work on. And again, we're reducing a lot of the anti-nutrients. So if you're sensitive and prone to autoimmune or gut health issues, or getting those anti-nutrients down and helping that gut permeability. Plus, we're flooding the body with lots of fats that are going to have connective tissue in there as well, which is good which is really high in glycine, which really helps those enterocytes heal. All right, guys, Dr. J signing off. Hope you guys have a great day. Take care, y'all. Bye now.